Hey, what's up guys, Mendel here. So today we're gonna check out how to program extreme metal drums. So here we go. Alright, so here we are in Cubase and I recorded some scratch guitars so we can program some drums underneath that. So let's take a listen to those first. Okay, sounding pretty cool. So let's go into the MIDI editor and let's program some drums. Okay, so let's first program some drums to the guitars and then we'll go more into depth on making them a bit more human and some notes about beats. So I'm first gonna follow that. So a typical metal thing would be following with the kicks and cymbals. And then a snare fill here. And then let's end on the toms right before we go into the blast beat. Let's take a listen. Okay, that sounds cool. So maybe you've noticed that the snare sounds kind of a bit robotic. So you could select them and with hand, like make sure everything sounds human. But I found a way that works for me and hopefully it works for you. So in Cubase, we have a logical editor right here. So what you can do, you can basically do like anything you can come up with MIDI-wise is something you can apply to it. But here's a cool thing I noted. So what I did, I made a random value setting between 122 and 125. So I'll slow it down a bit and show you what this does. So when I select these notes and I connect it to a key command, and when I press that, and when you watch this part right here, you can see it randomizes the value of the selected MIDI notes, which is very handy to have like randomized notes, especially when you have like a snare fill hit, because like no snare hit will always sound the same. So if you want to simulate that with programmed drums, you have to have random notes right here. So how I did that is I press MIDI, click Logical Editor, and I'll show you the preset I have, which is as follows. Filter target type is condition equal to parameter note. Then here we have action target value 2, and then operation set random values between, and then you can do whatever you want. You can do low values, high values. Most of the times drummers hit pretty hard during fast fills, so it's 122, 125, which makes it random between that. So let's take a listen to that. So that sounds a bit less robotic, but there's also another issue with programmed drum, because if you program everything exactly to the grid, no drummer can play exactly to the grid. So to solve that, what I did is I made a macro, and I'll show it right here. Go to key commands, edit key commands, go to show macros, and here it is, humanize drums. So here is my logical editor preset, the random velocity snare, and then I did quantize. So what this means, if I use a key command for that, it does the randomized value, but it also goes through the quantize settings. And this is where the randomized ticks comes in handy. So I have it set to 4 ticks. So I'll zoom in so you can watch these notes right here. So when I use those values and use the command, you can see it not only randomizes the value, but it also randomizes the timing of where it is in time on the grid, which adds another, let's say, a human element to it. So now it already sounds better, and to my ears I could lower this a bit. That sounds better than this one. I prefer this. Okay, so now we're going to program a blast beat. So one thing you should notice, and this is a lot of mistakes a lot of guitar players who try to program drums make, is even though it's possible, and maybe some drummers do it, most death metal drummers start a blast beat on the kick drum. So basically you could see it as like a thrash beat, which is how Germans like to say it, twice as fast. So I'll show you. So instead of starting on the snare, right here, I'm gonna start on the kick. So I got it now set on 8th notes. Just drag it all over. Then I select these notes. Then I press Ctrl D. Then I go to 16th notes, because on regular blast beat, the snare hits are between the kicks. So I drag that over to between the kicks. So we have this. That's the blast beat. And then we need some cymbals. So let's start on a crash and then have a certain pattern on the hi-hat. Let's take a listen. Okay, so that's the blast beat. But again, it sounds like a bit robotic because these are all maximum value hits. And a metal drummer or a death metal drummer doesn't hit rim shots playing a blast beat. To my knowledge, it's almost impossible. So I'm gonna use the randomizer again. And then I'm gonna drag it a bit down so we have those softer blast beat hits. That's a bit too soft. That's better. So let's duplicate the whole thing. And then remove this crash and put it on a hi-hat like that. So let's take a listen. So a cool thing death metal drummers like to do, like Cambadini. For some of you who may know, I played 7 years in a death metal band called Aborted with the drummer Cambadini. And a lot of death metal drummers like to accent riffs on the cymbals. So that thing. Cool. So now we have our blast beat. Let's duplicate it again. And then there's a turnaround in the riff, and I'm gonna do a hammer blast over there, which is double kicks, 16 notes with 8th note snares on it. So let's see where that part comes in. That's over there. So now we're gonna do 16 notes, kicks, and then we're gonna do 8th notes of the snares. Again, since it's pretty fast, let's soften the hits. Let's randomize it. Let's put the ticks on 4. There we go. That should be good. And let's play it, to make it more aggressive, let's play it on a crash. On China. So let's take a listen to this beat. Cool. So maybe it would be cool to round it off following the riff. Maybe a small fill. Then a hit with the kick. Okay, so now we're gonna program a thrash/gang beat. So the kick is playing quarter notes. And the snare is in between those hits. That sounds pretty cool. So you can either choose to do the hi-hat on the kicks or on the snare. I like to do it on the snare because that's what most thrash drummers do. So let's duplicate this a couple of times. And let's take a listen. And let's repeat it. So what could be cool is to now have double kicks on those on a thrash beat to make it a bit more extreme, dare I say it. So let's do a small fill before that. Let's do the randomize thing again. Since we're going to transition into the second riff, let's use the first transition drum part again. Okay, let's listen to the whole thing. Cool. Okay, so let's go to the second riff. Okay, since we have a busy intro with blast beats, gang beats, and transitions and stuff, let's do something more groovy. So more like with a 1, 2, 3, 4 pulse, but with double kicks because we're gonna stay extreme. Okay, so I'm gonna do the kick dragging over all the 16s, then put a snare in the middle, I think. There, that sounds cool. And now to make it more groovy with the hi, instead of doing like maybe it's cool like 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna program the hi-hats here. And every hit on the 2 and on the 2 and the 4, let's make it a bit softer. Okay, let's duplicate this whole thing. Okay, so let's to make it more interesting, let's follow the rhythms of the change of the guitar notes with cymbals. Let's do that. Ba-da-da-da-da. And then these two measures, let's do it on the right. And we're gonna do it almost like a Derek Roddy version. Which is 1. So let's see what we have here. And to make it even more interesting, more extreme, let's put the other ride in between at the end. So we have. There we go. Now let's duplicate that whole thing. All right, so let's take a listen to the whole thing. Cool. All right. So those are some basics from for programming extreme metal drums. If you have any questions, leave him a comment below so we can talk about programming extreme metal drums, and see you next time.